A long time ago, on a comics page far, far away. Greetings and welcome to May the Panel Be With You, the Star Wars comic book show brought to you by the Punch Up Entertainment Network. I am your humble host, Mike Gargoni, and joining me, as always, the forlom to my Zuckus, it's John Campbell.
The most classic characters. Hello, everybody. Gargoni, we're still in The Empire Striking Back. They've been striking back for a while on this show.
Well, due to podcast time travel, I think we're maybe experience more striking backs than our listeners actually are.
True. We've had to record some things in between, so it does feel like we've been doing this for 6 years. But yes, it's still Empire Strikes Back. I have no better opening than that.
Yeah, we're still in the middle of our Marvel Comics Group Presents adaptation of The Empire Strikes Back, specifically part of their ongoing Star Wars book. Today we are going to be covering issue number 42, which was released in December of 1980.
Wow, entering a whole new year.
Yes, indeed. We're almost firmly into 81 and well past the release of the actual movie at this point.
Well, and we're heading into 81, which we'll see the summer of 81 is when you get Raiders of the Lost Ark. And I believe Marvel also had an adaptation of that. So
we will not be covering that.
No, because I don't know that that's anywhere.
I'd be curious to go look. But this issue's creative team, much the same as we've had before on these issues. We have Archie Goodwin on writing, Al Williamson on pencils, Carlos Garzon on inks, Glennis Oliver Ween on colors, and Rick Veitch on letters.
Oh, the Veitch is back.
With a Sir James Shooter Esquire as our editor-in-chief.
Well, now that he's editor-in-chief, he's James Shooter.
I really do love that in the issues before and after The Empire Strikes Back, he's Jim Shooter. But in this, he's James Shooter.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Because he's the big boss now. He was consulting editor before? Now he's editor-in-chief.
Mm-hmm. But he'll settle back into that Jim rut come too long.
Well, because and then his dark descent into Jimmy Shooter. Well, Gargoni, this is very exciting because this promises us our favorite new characters. Boy, you wonder, so much is spoken of one Boba Fett within the
let's get right to this cover so we can get some context here. But yeah.
Because the thing about this is, and this is so indicative of Boba Fett, because for years we grew up as we always talk about, in that weird 90s era. So for us, Boba Fett was the biggest of deals because that was the heyday of the novels, the comics, the video games about him. But it is so interesting. People for years were always like, why is this character so popular for being in the movies so little? And you can see it here because they rammed him down the public's throats. There was no question from his debut in the Christmas special to the popularity of his toy to the fact they make a big deal about him coming in on this cover. And I know for a fact he becomes a bigger deal in later comic books that we will talk about.
Well, look,
there's no question. They made Boba Fett happen.
For the longest time, Boba Fett's real name for me was Jaster Muriel. Was the as revealed in the Dark Horse comics.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so excited to get into, once we get past these and get into Dark Horse continuity that is completely out of the realm of existence now, almost, except in the Legends world. There's no question.
Look, Boba Fett's iconography starts before Empire Strikes Back, the movie even comes out, right? Because he's one of the first on-set photos or costume tests that gets leaked to Starlog magazine.
And the holiday special, of course, was like I said, that's why it was in the holiday special, meet the new character who's going to be in the next movie, and it was basically kids, meet your new favorite character.
He rides a dinosaur.
Famously, as in every appearance we've ever seen him in, he does. But it's an example of, now whenever they do this, we roll our eyes, right? Because we're so used to them going yeah, it's our new favorite character. But at the time, it shows it really did work. People are like, oh yeah, I'm all in on Boba Fett.
And look, say
And he
what you
looks
will in
cool as
derision,
shit.
but the iconography is there right off the get-go.
It is one of the coolest outfits in anything ever. That helmet rules. His color scheme is awesome. He has a jetpack. Like he just is. He's got gadgets and cool weapons. I mean, and here it is, folks. And he's a bounty. How bad at what a cool job that's always been like in pop culture, right? The bounty hunter.
I mean, that definitely speaks to the mingling of Star Wars influences, right? Like,
Yeah.
bounty hunters is such an old West like
Yes.
thing, and to glom it onto science fiction. Like, Star Wars
It,
wasn't the first thing to do that, but it
no,
definitely
but it,
like
but it
popularized
definitely.
it.
And also the very, I mean, him having the spurs and stuff. Like he has a very Western. He's one of the most Westerny characters in the franchise, right?
Yeah.
So there's no question that, and he's even got. I don't know if this is, but he's got the like half rifle, which is very similar to Steve McQueen on Wanted Dead or Alive, the show he came famous for, where he played a bounty hunter. Which of course people probably know now more through being parodied in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood with Bounty Law,
Yeah.
like that kind of stuff. Yeah, so no, there's no question that he is designed from the ground up to be the fan favorite.
Right. And the guys flanking him on this cover are just equally as famous, right?
Well, to us, maybe. We know who these guys are,
Right.
but
Well, look, the Book of Bosk coming earlier next year to Disney
I
Plus.
I can't wait for the pamphlet of Dengar.
It's Dengar's diary. Come on.
Yeah, Dengar's diary. Of course it is. Yeah, Dengar's diary. The diaries of Dengar. Today I put a diaper on my head again. But no, I mean, even the way. Look at this cover. Yeah, you were joking before we started recording about the toy commercial this is, but it is like this is the December issue, which is great too. Where it's like, kids, remember to ask for these action figures this Christmas.
Look, in the digital copies of this book that we're reading, we don't see the ads that are printed in this issue, but you had best bet that KB Toys is in this issue. Toys R Us is in this issue.
Oh, it was a while back. We had the toy. Wasn't there the Toys R Us ad in one of them, or maybe that was something else?
It was a banner on the front. It was unescapable
Yeah.
on the cover. There was some contest being run.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I remember that like reading some of the old like Claremont X-Men's also had those. There was a heavy tie-in between Marvel and Toys R Us, so there's no question.
And this is like a few years before they're bought by Toy Biz.
Yeah, before they literally become a toy company. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, just the way that this is the full body shots of these guys too. They are posed like each sold separately. And of course, I did have all three of these action figures as a kid, and I'm sure you did as well.
I had Boba Fett, I had Dengar, I had Forlom and Zuckuss. I did not have
You didn't get
Dengar.
Bosk?
Or no,
Well, you
I
said
said
you-
I had Bosk. I did not have
You
Dengar.
didn't have Dengar, because I was going to say, if you're going to have one or the other, Bosk is the better one to have than Dengar.
And I definitely had IG-88 as well.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I mean, that was one of my favorites, actually, because what a cool design.
And
but
actually,
yeah,
once I had read a few of the books, I bought multiple IG-88s because that's how he functions.
So nerdy. Yeah, and now the Bounty Hunters.
Yeah, strap in for them to be in a whole 2 pages of this issue.
Well, they might be in the comic more than they're in the movie, actually.
Boba Fett definitely has more lines in this than he does in the movie.
Sure, he sure does. He's very talkative here all of a sudden. And I can't remember. Is there a word bubble that captures Bosk's famous?
In deference to Bosk, he also has more lines than Dengar.
It's true. Yeah. All right. So let's open the page, and yeah, boy, we are just leaning hard into the bounty hunters. Look at this splash page.
Yeah, so each splash page we've gotten so far in this book has always been like a prelude of what is to come, and then a filter back into the
This
present.
month on Star Wars.
Yeah. And failing to crush the rebels by attacking their base on the ice planet Hoth, Darth Vader's fleet hotly pursues the Millennium Falcon. But as the shadow of the Dark Lord threatens to engulf Princess Leia and the others aboard, all those others, Luke is unaware, guided by the Force on a mission of his own. Strange new dangers loom for both him and his friends.
By the way this is drawn here and the way these images are linked, it really makes it seem like the bounty hunters are coming to Dagobah, doesn't it?
That seems to be the implication here.
The way
I
they're
just
looming
like that
over Luke and stuff.
Forlom is drawn green for some reason.
There's a couple interesting colors. Like, I mean, right from the front, Bosk's outfit is not that purple in the movie.
Also, Bosk is like pumpkin orange.
Yeah, where he is more lizardy. I mean, what was he? Sort of a like gray-scaled kind of green.
No, I mean he's orange-ish when you see him, but he's definitely
much
more
more-
like the orange, like the tan of a lizard, not like a
Right.
pumpkin.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. There it is. And his outfit is definitely yellow, not purple.
Don't worry about it. It's the 80s. We colored comics differently back then.
We didn't know what colors were yet.
I mean, they did. They just used them in ways that we find upsetting.
Yeah. Oh my God. Sorry. Just as I googled this, I want the Lego minifig of Boss because it's just.
Oh,
hilarious.
it's pretty good.
It's a great figure because it's a Lego figure with a lizard head. It's great. Bosk has always been my favorite just because he's a lizard man. Like it's just so silly. It's ridiculous.
There's in the High Republic stuff that's been going on recently. One of the Jedi Masters that's running around in that is a Trandoshan, the species that Bosk is.
Love it.
His name is Master Skier, and just having a weird growly lizard Jedi is a lot of fun.
The lizard people are just such an obvious alien race and stuff, and it always makes me happy to see. Let's open the page though, because this is chapter 4. Immediately, I have questions about the graphic designs. To be a Jedi, why is it it's all this like 3D effect? Why is the Jedi like red behind the title?
Because they're calling their shot for Revenge of the Jedi. You know,
Yeah,
that red logo.
They are, because as we learned from at some point, they did know that was going to be the title. But we're still getting yet more recap here immediately.
Yeah, look, again, this is in an era where any comic could be somebody's first, so we kind of have to like segue into an ongoing story while also recapping everything that's happened so far.
Yes, yeah, there really is a lot of worry here.
But
that you're not going to know why he's on Dagobah.
Could you imagine, John, if they were also trying to recap all of the bullshit Marvel Star Wars stuff up to this point?
God.
Thank God they're only recapping Empire Strikes Back.
Here's what you need to know about Crimson Jack. He won't be in this, but you should hear about him still. So yes, Luke and R2, of course, are on Dagobah, the X-Wing having crashed into the swamp.
Yeah, and lest we forget, last issue, at the very end, we saw a spindly, creepy-looking swamp goblin.
A little goblin man on the swamp planet.
And look, we're going to be getting into just how little and just how swampy Yoda/Dagobah are.
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, I will say, once again, it's nice to have Al Williamson and Carlos Grazon here, because the detail is noticeably improved. I mean, just look at these trees and everything. There's so much more lovingly rendered images here than we're used to in the Infantino stuff.
Yeah, and obviously this is not movie Dagobah, this is comic book Dagobah, so things are a little bit more Wonderlandy. We've got these big mushrooms in the background. We've got trees that like grow into spirals.
I'm not gonna. I don't know about the specifics of the creators of this, but famously, there were a lot of drugs being passed around the Marvel bullpen at this time. Once again, I don't know. But I do love stories where you have like Claremont stuff where it's just like, fucking Roy Thomas and I would light up a joint and walk around Central Park and talk about what Iron Fist was going to get up to, you know?
Look, if you just read the Doctor Strange comics at this time or the Defenders, I think it'll tell you volumes about what's going on.
It's like, hey man, what if Doctor Strange entered a crazy dimension, bro? Like, wow. Yeah.
But speaking of crazy dimensions, on this next page, we immediately get introduced to the main man himself as this little...
legs. It's the legs, man.
Yeah, it's the legs. It really is the weird, stocky legs.
I've never thought of Yoda having knees. Like, I mean, I think I said this before when we were doing this, but like, presumably he has knees, but it's always under the robe.
Mm-hmm.
It's unclear. Yeah. But here, oh God, he's terrifying.
Well, and yeah, we have this interaction where Yoda's introducing himself,
Yep.
Luke being suspicious of him. Then we get this weird panel on the top right here.
I don't know
What
what the point of this is.
did somebody bump the antenna of the TV?
Oh
Like
shit.
it looks like they're trying to replicate like cable static. I don't know what
It
it
really
is.
does have that look. Yeah, it takes me back to that. I don't know what this is meant to emphasize. I do. I have praised before in some of the previous issues, and we both like when they've sort of chosen these moments to do these sort of moodier, expressionistic panels. But I don't follow what they're even trying to achieve with this one.
Yeah, again, it looks like static, and I don't.
Yeah,
It doesn't read well, and
it's
maybe
weird. It
it's
looks like a printing error or something.
it might be that, or it might be covering for some art details that we know they changed later. The version
Yeah.
we're reading is an edition that came out in some kind of collected volume later, where the art was changed to basically change what Yoda looks like and change some of the dialogue per the explanation we got at the end of last issue.
Correct. Yes, we got that explanation, and as we saw in that last issue, Yoda was even more terrifying.
Right, because he was far more based off of the Ralph
Correct.
McQuarrie concept art, yeah. Which
Boy, oh
is
boy,
like
boy.
a blue little like gnome creature.
Yeah. Now, see here at the bottom of the page, though, they're doing that kind of staticky sky, but it works better because it has the detail in the foreground, and then it's almost like things are going out of focus.
Oh, I see what they're doing, John. They're shooting day for night.
They do appear to be. I will say it does have that look. It's a blue sky, but we put all these black dots in it. It'll be night now.
For those who don't know, that's a thing in like TV and movies where they'll shoot something that's supposed to take place during night, during
Yeah.
the day, and then just color correct it so it looks dimmer.
I mean, they used to back in the day. They used to literally just put a blue filter over the camera and go like, "Good enough."
Yeah.
You watch stuff in the '50s, you're like, "This looks weird." There's a lot. Watch a lot of the old like Connery Bond movies. Do it all the time. So yeah. So the off he goes with Yoda.
What do you think of the compression of Yoda's dialogue here? I don't know. I've got the Frank Oz like patter in my head so perfectly that reading
Yeah.
it glued together in like a different sentence structure like kind of throws me off, honestly.
Yeah, I same here. It's just so iconic. Yoda is, one of the easiest voices to call up in your head of any Star Wars character, right?
It's him and Jar Jar. Unfortunately, it's true.
Sadly, yes, it is. But and both of them have a very particular speech pattern.
Yeah.
That yes, as soon as you screw with at all, and I know why they're doing it because once again they're condensing for the page, but you do start to go like, oh, he sounds, and then I mean, it's the whole thing, right? It's the weird drawing of him mixed with this, and you're just like, I don't know what kind of alternate dimension Yoda this is, but I don't like it. This is not my friend.
Okay. But most importantly, I think we do need to focus on this bottom right panel when Yoda is leading him away and saying, "I'll take you to go see Yoda." We see definitively, based on
Yep.
this silhouette, that Yoda
Yep.
comes up about to Luke's waist, which is
Yes.
probably about right for Yoda height.
Yeah. Because what is he like?
2 to 3 feet, somewhere in there.
Yeah, around there. Yeah. 2 and some change.
Yeah. He's Hobbit
Yeah,
height.
little under 3 feet is about where I place him. Yeah.
Now-
He's about the size of a toddler.
You may be asking yourself, but Mike, why would you stop the podcast
Oh,
to
yeah.
indicate Yoda's relative height? We all know how big Yoda is.
I think regular listeners of the show should be aware of why you're pointing that out.
Anyway, moving on. We'll get back to that.
See you later. Anyway, let's go to space, and we're still shooting stuff at an asteroid. Pew pew.
Far away from the mists of Dagobah, which envelop Luke. Let's take a note for how many times we say the mists of Dagobah, because this is number 1.
And what else you gonna say about it? It's got miss.
It's a jungle planet? I don't know.
The green planet. What was the Alder? No, not Alderaan. The Yavin
Yavin.
4. Yeah, where they were
The
talking
jungle
about
moon of Yavin.
Yeah, God, they just kept going on the green, lush jungle of we get it. So
But
yeah,
anyway,
we've got Star Destroyers making a bombing run.
interesting that this comic didn't have. Uh, Clearly, they didn't know about TIE bombers,
Correct.
which are first seen in this sequence in the movie.
I did because it was weird to turn the page here and see the destroyers themselves doing the bombing.
Yeah, and it doesn't even look like they're bombing; they're shooting lasers.
Yeah, I know. It is only the combination that they're clearly shooting lasers. By the way, out of nowhere, this is a total nerdy thing. That is not where the guns on the Star Destroyer. All right. Anyway, well, because I mean, but they're not even. It appears that lasers are just coming out of the ships.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it's very shoddily done. And then yes, it's only because they say bombing that we're aware of that.
But yeah, so no TIE bombers. It's Star Destroyers off there in the distance bombing asteroids. And we get a view of a cave that is clearly a mouth.
Yeah, they're not bearing the lead on this one.
No. But again, they don't know what the Exogorth looks like.
Sure.
That's the name of the space slug. So
Well, this is mentioned a few times, yes.
we're never going to get a good, clean look at this creature.
No, we are not. But inside, boy, once again, I think they're sparking up that spliff again because, man, look at this. This is one psychedelic asteroid, baby.
Look, this place is purple and pink and darker purple, and you'd best get on with the vibe.
I don't know what kind of Dr. Seuss nightmare this thing just walked out of, but Jesus. Anyway, but then cut to once again a very like shadowy specific lighting on 3PO.
Yeah. Also, we have this line from Leia, presumably, after Han says, they're just trying to stir things up. We're safe in here. And she says, where have I heard that before, Mr. Solo? Mr. Solo.
Mr. Solo. No, number one, no one calls him Mr. Solo. Period. Least of all Leia.
Yeah.
If anyone refers to him anything, it's as Captain Solo. And she wouldn't say that anyway.
Doesn't respect him enough.
No. 3PO would call him Captain Solo. But but Mr. Solo.
Yeah. It's interesting to, and again, we're working off of, we know the, like.
Yeah, we actually do. It's fun to have answers to how this worked.
Yeah, we're working off of a draft that was completed of the script before shooting began.
Right.
And so some of this dialogue is straight out of there. And it's interesting to see which bits, which we now are fairly confident that, like, Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher on set were punching up a lot of this.
A lot of the particularly the dialogue, obviously, got changed radically on set.
Yeah.
Specifically by those two. And we've seen, of course, go back to our previous episode where we actually went through some of Carrie Fisher's handwritten notes.
Yeah.
And you definitively see she made it better.
Yeah. 100%.
Unquestionable. Oh. I mean, of course, I think we talked about that there, but as for those who don't know or to be reminded, she ends up being one of the best script doctors in Hollywood. Like that becomes the whole later part of her career, is famously saved countless movies with punch-up work.
Yeah. Speaking of punching up, we then cut to the interior where we have a bit of a montage where they're fixing the ship, and this is where we get our first big romantic scene with Han and Leia.
Yeah, which
feels weird on the page.
Yeah.
I don't know, stilted?
Yes, I mean, once again, you're translating a movie to a comic book, which is tough anyway, so you don't have, I mean, so much of that Han and Leia romance is not only just the chemistry those two had, but the John Williams love theme is so iconic. And yeah, it just feels strange in the comic. And it's shortened, of course, too. It's condensed into just a few panels. And so you're like, oh, yeah. And I mean, and of course, we also read it taking it for granted, going like, this is the part where Han and Leia kiss from the movie.
True. But yeah, you're right. A lot of that is the chemistry on set. Like, the two of them standing close to each other and, like, Han kind of pressing in and Leia kind of fighting it right up until she doesn't.
You also,
is part of the back and forth of that scene.
You also don't have, like, you don't have the build-up to it, like that scene when he grabs her in the cockpit when it's being shaken. And it's like, let me go. And he's like, hey, hey, hey. You know, like, there are steps to this. Sexual tension is in a good product is built. You also don't have the comedy of 3PO interrupting their kiss,
True.
which I do
Because
love
it
in the
just
movie.
has her pulling away.
Yeah, which changes context once again. It makes you go like, okay. She breaks nervously away, perhaps frightened by what she feels, or perhaps by how much she wishes the feeling would continue.
What
That
is with
that
this
you
book
can't blame
and
that shit on the
space
script.
ladies
Yeah.
feeling weird about their feelings?
They
Because,
love it. Yes, that is true. But I also saying like that's not something that was in the screenplay. That's all. That's all on our boy here.
yeah, that's
Uh,
Archie Goodwin.
yeah, that's pure Archie right there. And Archie gave us weird. What was it? Jolly the
Yeah.
Jolly. Yeah, the where she was just like, but I can't feel love.
But I hate men, but
Yeah.
also Han Solo's lips.
Uh, yeah, I mean, literally, didn't he have lines about, I never thought I'd feel this way about a man?
Yeah.
It's so weird. And this is not, once again, I mean, I understand they're basing off the script, but it is just like, that's not really how I read Leia in the movie per se, or at least not, I wouldn't phrase it like that.
I think it's one of those things. The way I've always read the romance in Empire Strikes Back specifically is Leia has had to put up this like strong leadership front for so long that letting herself lower those barriers when it's just her and Han and
Yeah.
Chewie and 3PO aboard the Falcon is hard for her.
I think not just romance, but just intimacy in general. She's not
Yeah.
used to, that sort of thing. And the other thing you don't get that is really Kasdan's gift, because he does it in most of his scripts, and I think really what he brought to it is that he's very old Hollywood patter, right? There's a ba-da-ba-bum, ba-da-ba-ba-ba. It's the same thing you see in his script for Raiders the next summer that we talked about with Indy and Marion, right? It's just that there is this push and pull that is an inherent like, oh, doth protest too much sort of thing, right? Where you're like,
Yeah.
we're gonna jibe at each other, but it's clear we're so hot for each other that you just can't get it. It's tough to get that across in a comic in the same way.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, it really does not help then when Archie Goodwin is just going, she's afraid of her feelings. You know how women are afraid of feelings. Is that a thing? Yeah.
Famously, yeah.
Famously, yeah. All right, let's turn the page here and get away from that nonsense. And back
What
to
is thy bidding, my master?
and very interesting here because this, of course, is something that famously had to be changed in later stuff with the Emperor. Here, though, they clearly have no information about the Emperor. It looks like.
Correct. So we have, Vader getting told that the Emperor is wanting to make contact. They pull the Super Star Destroyer out of the asteroid field. We do see in the background at this top panel 2 Star Destroyers just exploding in asteroids,
Yeah, yeah, man.
which I believe
Lost a
I-
couple
I-
more.
I think it's way more effective in the movie. Well, I mean, everything is more effective in the movie, but there's that bit in the
Spoilers,
movie
the movie's
where
better than this comic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
shocking. Where they're in communications with one of the Star Destroyers, and we don't even see the ship exploding. We just see the captain on the holo projector going, "Wah!"
That is a great moment, and it really does send a feeling of this whole sequence, which is just like, Jesus Christ, man, you're losing way more than is necessary to capture one dude in a ship, basically, a couple people in one ship, right? Like,
Yeah.
is this really worth it? Like it adds to this obsessive nature that we've talked about that I like in the Vader thing of like this pursuit is maddening.
Right. And I've always enjoyed the subtext of this back and forth between Vader and the Emperor and how it has changed subtly over the years, mostly because of comics.
Right.
Because there is the whole thing in Charles Soule's original run that takes place between A New Hope and Empire, in which Vader basically discovers that Luke is his son. And so the idea that this is the moment in which the Emperor tilts his hand that he also knows that Skywalker has a son. And so Vader is in this moment kind of like desperately trying to figure a way to basically save Luke.
Yeah, credit where credit's due on that. It's not the Charles Soule run; it's the Kieran Gillen run that
Kieran
does that.
Gillen. Sorry.
Yeah, no, yeah, Soule did the next one, the prequel one.
Right. I always mix up the actual Star Wars book and the Vader book that were happening basically at the same time.
Right. No, yeah. So it's the Gillen run, but yes, that is that book. I think we've talked about before. Like, if there's maybe the biggest must read of the Marvel stuff is the Vader comics.
I would personally agree. I think there's some of the strongest stuff, and I actually really like the stuff Pac's been doing as well. Although
I haven't read much of that yet.
the most recent stuff of it that happens between Empire and Jedi, I think, is a little. It's starting to get a little outrageous and like feeling Marvel Star Warsy in terms of like there's a secret war between Vader and the Emperor that's happening behind the scenes.
One of the things that really worked about, and now we're talking about this, but one of the things that really worked in both the Gillen and Soule runs is they were both very specific point A to point B arcs. And I've noticed the Pac run, I think just due to the popularity of the Vader comic, there's way more of it than there are the other ones. So I think he's being like, keep it going is sort of the message of there. But I was going to say, just in terms of, I think they're the most must-reads, not just because of their quality, but they do fill in a lot. They're the most that you can actually, like you're talking about, bring into this. It really does fill in a lot of Vader motivations that feel like, oh, that makes a lot of sense, as opposed to just sort of going like, oh, I guess that's another thing that happened between movies. Those are the ones where you're actually like, man, these actually feel important to me in a way that maybe the other stuff doesn't as much.
Well, it's interesting because when this comic that we're reading right now was released, and while these movies were being released, Vader is a bad guy that requires no interiority, right? But the minute you introduce the character of Anakin Skywalker over the course of the Clone Wars or the prequel movies, suddenly the character of Darth Vader has to have interiority.
Exactly, and that's so when you go back to it retroactively, you have to fill in for which, I've heard the recordings of Lucas talking about, Vader's a one-off villain, that. So it's like that wasn't always the plan. So yes, they are filling in things that will become necessary later on. Exactly. So yeah, it's an interesting thing. But I do like just the shadowy Emperor is some guy.
Yeah, we don't get Frog Face Emperor in this one, which is a little disappointing, but it's fine.
I know. I kind of wanted to say. I was curious, like, what's their drawing of Frog Face Emperor going to be? But yes, this is them, of course, talking about Vader's like, that's right, I'm going to make Luke Skywalker join us or die.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is great. Weird, it's just a coloring thing. Vader's kneeling looks weird, like where his other leg just kind of disappears into his body because of the way it's colored.
Yeah.
I mean,
you can kind of see that his like knee is down and his leg is sort of back and to the side, so his rear foot would be behind his front foot. But it does look like he's kind of like floating on the floor there.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's because it's all this one color of him that he's. It's odd.
And the blacks sort of bleed into each other a little bit.
But then I love the last panel of him with his fist up and the way you can see the gleam on his helmet. Right, like that's so cool.
Yeah, no.
Great First time we've really gotten the sense of it being metal and stuff like that in this comic. All right, back to Dagobah.
Misshrouded Dagobah, too.
Oh. The misshrouded Dagobah. And a Yoda who shrunk? Is that what you're about?
Well, okay, so maybe we're dealing with some forced perspective here. I'll give it the benefit of the doubt there. Maybe Yoda is several feet away in his tiny home.
Sure.
Sure. Why not?
If that's what they're trying, I'll say this though. If that's what they're trying to achieve, it still looks weird.
And at the worst interpretation would be that Yoda maybe shrank a couple feet.
Yeah. Well, famously Yoda changes sizes a lot. That's
right. So maybe this Yoda, if Luke stood up here, would maybe come up to Luke's, I don't know, thigh, somewhere in there.
Yeah, somewhere in there. Yeah, he's
still like 2 feet pushing.
Yeah, but he's lost a couple inches for sure.
He's definitely in his old age. He tends to shrivel.
He also just seems smaller too. He seems more petite.
Yeah. Again, it's the legs. It is absolutely the legs.
God, the legs are just so disturbing.
Seeing his weird little, short robe cut off at the knee and seeing it from the knee down is just so upsetting for some reason.
Folks, what do Yoda's legs look like? You've never seen them.
Are you imagining like horrible green twigs? Because that's what we're seeing.
Because, like, always, in every depiction I've ever seen of him, it's just the robe down to his feet and then the little feet coming. Always. Mm-hmm. Never did he have legs.
Again, because he was a puppet.
Yeah. Yeah, they never went Muppet movie with Kermit riding a bike or anything like that.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
So
the closest we ever get is episode 2, and even when he's full CG and hopping around fighting Dooku, when you never see up his skirt.
No. Damn. Yoda, hot Yoda upskirts.
Oh boy! Look, you've said it. It already exists.
Yeah, that already existed. Come on, I didn't even have to build that into existence. So yeah, he's anyway. He's telling him about his father, who was a powerful Jedi, of course. And this is another pissed off looking Luke, though. How could you know about my father? Which, like, in the movie, he's frustrated, but here he's like, I'm gonna fucking choke this thing to death.
I'd like to see him try.
Yeah. Come here, you little bastard.
I do love the narration here, though, when it says, a chill goes through Luke Skywalker as his wizened little guide speaks seemingly to himself and is answered by the voice of Ben Kenobi.
Hello, I'm back in the comic, everyone.
But the comic, God forbid, it tell us that the ghostly voice is that of Obi-Wan Kenobi.
I know, it's rare for them. Most of the time we've talked about where they're just like, what's that? What?
Most of the time they're going, you've seen Star Wars, you know who this is.
But yes, he goes, I've trained Jedi for 800 years. I'll keep on.
Yeah, I mean, it's a classic back and forth between the ghost of Obi-Wan and Yoda being like, don't tell me what to do.
These two, man, such old curmudgeons. You know, we've been having this conversation for decades. Don't you tell me what to do.
Excitement, adventure. A Jedi craves not these things.
Yep. So yeah, let's see. Yeah, that's on the next page here with this once again very moody close-up of Luke.
I love that close-up of Luke. I think it's great.
That's what I mean. I kind of wish the whole book looked like that. Those are when it really is impactful. These individual panels are like, oh, that's great. It's like that Vader one we were just looking at. Because then you get it's not mist this time, Gorgoni. Fog is enclosed the mud house.
Oh, I'm still going to count it. That's 3.
But then we're back to the psychedelic wonderland.
Welcome to the fucking goop cave.
Yeah. Some Oompa Loompas are about to roll out here.
No. It's Minox that we never see, despite them technically being in 2 panels.
So weird, right?
Right.
Because we see, because we have Han shooting one, right? And it appears to be an eel of some sort. Like the way that you see right? It looks like a shrimp. Yeah, and then what they see is just a puddle of goo on the ground.
It's the gooeyest goo.
That's all we get of the Minox, who in the movie are kind of bat-like creatures with suction mouths, right? Because there's
like bat leeches.
Yeah.
They chew on power couplings.
Yeah. So I'm curious what it was. This is one where I'd like, that draft we were talking about, like, what did it describe them as in the script? They certainly didn't have any visual reference, so they would have used it. So I don't know. It's just weird. It's weird because, once again, because we know what Minox look like.
But then we also have like specific look details of like the breath masks they're wearing when they exit the Falcon. That's what makes this even stranger.
Dead on. They must have had production stills because that was a thing that was on set. Although Minox would have been on set too because those are puppets at this point.
Those are absolutely puppets, yeah.
So they should have that. Yeah, that's a weird one.
Strange.
Yeah, very strange. Anyway, turn the page. More psychedelic goop.
I really dislike this change in the comics because in the book, or not in the book, in the movie, you have all 3 of them, Leia, Han, and Chewie, outside the Millennium Falcon. They take care of some Minox. They scrape them off the side. Then they have this interaction where the consistency in here is strange. The ground feels spongy. And Han does that, like, kind of bounce on the ground and then, like, as a test, just shoots the ground. And I think it's way more evocative than this suddenly Han, as he's going up the ramp, turns and spin moves to fire at the wall randomly.
Yeah, they really give him like a action hero pose here.
Right.
It's something that is they're thinking about the individual panel, not the whole, right? Like it's sort of the
Right.
thing with like that'd be a cool Han pose. You're like, yeah, but it's unnecessary. Like, I'm as on board for cool Han poses as anybody, but
Well, because it reads like he's telling everyone to get back inside fast while also at the same time making
yeah,
the determination to shoot the wall.
it's also kind of a weird the way he's like it's almost like a second thought. He's like halfway up the ramp and he's like, ah shit, let's just shoot this, and he crouches down. Let's just give it a shot and see what happens.
But also, like, Leia is still outside the ship. Like, again, it's a weird time compression thing. It doesn't make a ton of sense.
And then we're just back in the cockpit.
And then we're just back in the cockpit. Thank God. I mean, hey, the cockpit looks right, so I'm gonna
Hey,
count my
that's
blessings.
yeah. So we're gonna fly out of here, and boy, that looks like some dripping teeth. I don't remember the Exegorth having this kind of dripping of the teeth like this. Not to this extent, at least.
No, and
They're
again,
just big teeth.
they're just big teeth, and it doesn't look like this at all because they don't know what this thing looks like.
Nope.
And this is all VFX shots done for the movie that the people making this comic book had no idea what it was going to be.
So anyway, we turn the page. They fly out of there. It's much closer in this comic than it is in the movie. The way they have to fly out between the teeth.
And also the teeth in this look like stalagmites and stalactites. They don't
Right. They really are just like teeth in the movie. They're not
Yeah.
yeah.
But it's
Anyway.
no cave. Oh no, we're doomed. They fly out of there. I love the line here that is just for the comic book where it says, "A giant slug, probably."
I don't know. I'm sure you remember it when you saw it in the movie. It looked like something. Anyway.
Meanwhile,
And
Dagobah.
Back to Dagobah. Yeah, Luke is fighting a gleaming metal rod. What?
Okay, so I understand. This is probably in the script. We found that copy of the shooting script. I'd have to go back and check. But this seems like a clear addition in a movie of like, okay, if we're going to have a training montage, we need to show the thing that Luke can get progressively better at. And what they're trying to set up here is that, like, okay, after Yoda takes him on his weird swamp obstacle course, he has to then attack this floating metal bar with his lightsaber, and a Jedi should be able to cut it into 7 pieces after an exercise.
They want a thing like the training ball with the blaster in the New Hope, but this didn't make the movie though.
No, it didn't, and neither did the pocket-sized Yoda that is resting on Luke's shoulder in the bottom right panel here.
Perspective about this. He's on his shoulder like a little mouse.
He is Jiminy Cricket all of a sudden.
Oh, God. Yeah. Now he's down to 1 foot tall. God damn it.
Clearly the script read that Yoda is riding on his back.
Yep.
And is speaking over his shoulder.
Such an iconic image from the movie. We all know Luke. I mean, many a statue and action figure. I have one in the other room that's Yoda on Luke's back, you know.
How they have rendered this in the comic book is a bite-sized Yoda literally sitting on Luke's shoulder like Jiminy Cricket.
Well, he is his conscience. I mean, if you think about it. And also, shirtless Luke.
Yeah. So on the next page, we really get a good idea of just how much of a lack of a handle they have on how big Yoda is.
Yeah, because now he's a slightly bigger.
Top of the page, he's slightly bigger. We hard cut in on Yoda's face, and then we get the montage at the bottom of this page with Luke doing all of his Jedi training, and in each one of the different...
It's a different size.
It's a different size!
Yeah, and they brought back the ball droid that's training him here.
Yeah. But we get like weird spotty mushrooms. It feels so Wonderland.
Yep. This so feels like you're the best around.
You're a champion. Gotta climb that mountain and slice that ball. You're a champion.
It really has that vibe to it. It really, really does. Uh, yeah, because there, and he's lifting rocks with his mind, and then of course now we get to our famous scene where he wants him to lift the X-wing out of the swamp.
Yeah. Just to go back to the montage page, I do actually like the caption here when it says, "And as time passes, Luke does that and much more. Pushed by the unyielding little Jedi Master to concentrate, to open himself to the Force, the young man from Tatooine begins to grow in ways he never dreamed possible."
Yeah. Stuff?
But yes, in the next page, we have the size matters not, which, again, when Yoda is constantly changing size, you know it's true.
It's true. It is, yeah. Good Lord. He's all over the place, man. Look at him. He's so tiny.
He's so little.
Like now he went from 3 feet to 2 feet to 1 foot to 6 inches. You know, he's just a little guy. He's a little guy.
He is becoming a Lilliputian. From Gulliver's Travels? What's that called?
Oh, I have no idea.
The Lilliputians, the little people from Gulliver's Travels.
I know what you're talking about. I don't think I ever knew that name. But yeah. And so he goes, check it out, man. Check what I can do.
Yeah.
Lift that shit up.
I think it's way less dramatic in this book because in the movie, obviously, you have that whole sequence where like Luke gives up and begins to walk away, and that's when Yoda like tucks in and is just like, "Watch this."
Well, one of the biggest things that I find very interesting is we see it lift off, but we never get a close up of Yoda with his. You never get a sense of it.
You don't even see Luke failing.
He just goes, "I can't do it," and Yoda's like, "Watch this shit, man." Also, I'm 3 inches tall now, and I'm doing this. And also, this goofy little grin on Yoda's face in that last panel, too. He's like, "That is why you fail."
Whereas in the movie, it's more of a resignated, like, "That is why you fail."
They really, it feels like in their art on this, they really latched on to how Yoda first presents himself. They have not gone as much to the wise Yoda as much as the like, what a scamp. And it's like they read it and just went, he's a scamp. Got it. We'll always draw him being scampy. Like, no, that's kind of he can be, and I love that Yoda has like a sense of humor. That's the thing that's great about the character. But also, yeah, he's the dispenser of wisdom also. That's kind of what he's most famous for. So it's strange. Mike Gargoni is so pissed he's leaving the podcast now about that. So furious about that. You just stormed
Sorry,
off.
there was a dog reunion happening upstairs, and I had to close the door.
It's like the idea about I can't with this Yoda shit anymore.
Yeah, no, the tiny Yoda somehow triggered a reunion between dogs in my home.
Well, they heard an even smaller Yoda. We have to get in on this. All right,
this Yoda is chew toy sized, so I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, let's go here because what are we at to here?
Bounty hunters, we don't need their scum.
13 pages into this, we finally get to, and now the bounty hunters.
Yeah, on the last panel of the Yoda X-Wing scene, we have a conversation between two Imperial officers that we literally never see, saying, bounty hunters, ugh, these assholes.
Mm-hmm. And it's not nearly as cool as it is in the movie where they're standing on that platform above. And of course, you get the great reveal of Bosk's lizard feet first and his Nick Nolte impression.
But that also has the Imperial officers looking up at him, being like, "Oh, these guys are gross."
Right? Yeah, you'd lose all of that impact, and instead you just have them kind of loosely around Vader, who's not even looking at them.
Also, Vader definitely implying that these guys are on a team together. Because Vader has this line here where it says, "There will be a substantial reward for the one who finds the Millennium Falcon. You and your band are highly regarded in your particular trade, Boba Fett. Do not disappoint me."
And also, you don't get, once again, he always has his back to them for some reason in this. So you don't get that, and no disintegrations. You don't get that, hey, I'm chiding you. I'm in charge here. It's always just like, it makes it seem like just like, oh, don't disintegrate anybody while you're at it, too.
I loved it in the movie because it definitely gives the implication that Vader has worked with Boba Fett before, and there have been some disintegrations.
He knows he is. Oh, I know you, man. You're crazy for the disintegrations. You just love them. Yeah.
Biggest disappointment in Mandalorian, like after season 2, is the lack of disintegration gun.
Because it was so exciting. We were like, oh, disintegrations.
Because that is, of course, the gun that Boba Fett had in the animated
the tuning
Wars
fork
special. Yeah,
rifle. Yeah, which is very cool. And then, but yeah, here he's just like, and once Boba Fett's just like, yeah, I got it. Yeah.
So yeah, Boba Fett has 2 whole dialogue boxes here where he says, "Given a free hand, I've never disappointed anyone except those who hope to escape me."
Yeah. God, do you remember when there was so much lore about, oh, his voice sounded scratchy because he had his throat cut and...
Yeah, notice how I'm doing like the animated short voice or the original voice, because I don't think I could do Tamora Morrison.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I do like for the continuity, but there was... that's how badass this character was. Like, we even need to explain why he sounds that way. Oh, he's so badass!
And there would eventually be some like continuity where like it was Han Solo that fucked him up, and
Of course!
yeah.
Of course. That's still what I want to see, by the way. I still want to see.
I think also Dengar has a backstory where Han Solo's the one that made it so he has to wear a diaper on his head.
I think Han Solo fucked all these guys up in some fiction, whether fan or official, I don't know. But I do love the way that Dengar finds his way into this second panel. Like, you have all the... And then he's just like, he's photobombing this. He's like, Dengar's here too.
Hey,
Don't forget
I'm just pissed because this comic is participating in Zuckuss erasure, and I won't be having it.
I'm tired of this, man. Time and time again, Zuckuss is left on the sidelines. Man.
Look, he's a proud, Gand hunter, and he will not be denied his prize.
Yeah. Anyway, though, there's your bounty hunters, folks.
We promise you 2 pages. You get 1 spread over 2 pages.
Yes, exactly. They fooled you. Because, boom, we're back on the pursuit of the Millennium Falcon.
My lord, we have them.
Mm-hmm. And then pew, 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 pew.
Yep, Millennium Falcon's flying away. Star Destroyer is in pursuit. But then what's this? Han Solo's got one last secret stored in her sweetheart because their hyperdrive is still not working.
Yep, he's going to swing this bucket around, as he says on the next page.
Mm-hmm. And he's flying straight at... I mean, this is just a great, like, Han Solo being a daring asshole sequence.
It's such a classic Han Solo moment.
Uh-huh.
And then
straight at the Star Destroyer and then vanish.
Yeah. It doesn't... There's another thing that, once again, the comic can't get that impact of the huge Star Destroyer flying by and then the little Millennium Falcon is just on it.
Yeah, the scale here is not quite right. Like, it seems like the Millennium... It seems like anyone looking out a window would see this Millennium Falcon attached to the bridge of the Star Destroyer.
You also, because you have to do it in panel, like 3 panels, you don't really get the sense of it flying and then being like, where is it? Other than you just get dialogue about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just doesn't... Yeah, this is tough to convey.
Tough to convey, yeah.
It is. I mean, it's not the comic's fault per se. It is tough. With the resigned air of a man totally without hope, the cruiser command... I love the idea if we get a little internal life on the cruiser commander.
Well, I mean, look, he just called Darth Vader saying, "We've got him," and then he has to call Darth Vader back?
Actually, funny thing about that.
If I were in that guy's shoes, I'm just like, congratulations, number 1, you are now captain. I will be going to the nearest escape pod. Thank you.
I am joining the rebellion. I'll see you all later.
Resigning my commission, I am now a stormtrooper.
Okay, let's turn to the next page here, because this first panel is both Force perspective and he's tiny, combining to make one of the weirdest panels in any Star Wars comic.
Look, just because Yoda has the powers of Ant-Man doesn't mean we should be judging him for it.
Does he have the proportionate strength of an ant?
And again, the weirdest part is like, okay, we have this, and then on the next panel, we get another silhouette perspective of Yoda, and he's back up to waist height.
That's the thing, man. If they had a tiny Yoda the whole time, fine, whatever. But the fact that it's all over the place.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Is there not a style sheet for this shit that describes how tall these things are supposed to be? I mean, isn't that the norm?
And I can only like basically squarely lay this at the feet of Al Williamson, right?
Has to be. I mean, it really is. There's no one's fault but his own on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the inks are not adjusting the size of Yoda.
No, that's all in the pencils. And I think Al has been doing such a great job across all of this.
For the most part.
Yeah, but this,
But fucking shrinking and growing Yoda is just a little much.
This was his Waterloo, man. I don't know what to tell you. I just couldn't with Yoda, man. So anyway, yeah,
but this is Yoda's big monologue about the nature of the dark side.
Oh yeah, and it's great. I mean, that comes from the movie.
Anger, fear, aggression, the dark side of the Force. They. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's great.
I was reading a rather heated discussion, as I do online, about
whoa, heated discussion about Star Wars? No way.
I know, but there's this, I don't know, contingent of fandom that is obsessed with this idea of like a gray Jedi, someone who uses light side and dark side of the Force.
Yeah,
and I don't know. It's a larger argument and something we'll be discussing at greater detail, especially when we get to like Star Wars Legacy and stuff.
Especially once we get into stuff that's expressly about Grey Jedi, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it, like, this scene in Empire specifically illustrates that, like, while that is a piece of the Force that exists, to let it guide your actions, to let it give you strength, is the problem.
It's always a thing to me that I view the dark side as like, you kind of, you look into the abyss, the abyss looks back into you kind of thing, right? It's like, once you open that door, it's gonna consume you. It's very hard to have a toe in the dark side.
Because it's not about, like, not acknowledging those feelings. Because those feelings are natural. Fears, like, famously, oldest human instinct is fear. Right. But it is not. It is acknowledging that fear, using it as information, but not necessarily letting it, like, demand what you do next. And the same goes for anger and aggression and all the other, like, what we would call negative emotions.
I hate to bring it up, but you and I have both read Colin Trevorrow's script for what would have been episode 9, and I think he in that script he really well handled that.
Yeah. Yep.
About bringing balance to the Force. That there sort of is no, that it's not about embracing the dark side as much as it is about opening yourself up to being human, like you're talking about.
Yeah. Anyway, so we're back to the Star Destroyers.
Back to Star Destroyers. I will say, and it's just because of the nature of this having to be this adaptation, this comic is more all over the place than most issues of a comic you would read. Like, this constant jumping within pages to different locations is not something comic books do a lot of.
Because between two panels, we get Luke listens to Yoda and tries to grow calm, yet it's hard not to be impatient. So hard, ... and then we cut to wide shot of Imperial fleet.
And there would be yeah, and knowing that his enemy experiences similar frustrations as his fleet run, like, all points to why am I blanking on the writer's name? Archie Goodwin. Yeah, all points to him for trying to, like, meld these things so that cut makes sense, right? Like, but
yeah,
it's just a little awkward. Yeah, because they can't find the Millennium Falcon.
Right. Even though anyone could easily look out the window and say, "Hey, isn't it the Millennium Falcon there on the side of that ship?"
Oh, we always have a Millennium Falcon on the side of this ship.
Something about the scale doesn't make any sense. Because, in the movie, the Falcon is this, like, tiny little piece on the Star Destroyer.
It's so good. It's one of my favorite parts of Empire. It's so great. Like, and that's part of the scrappiness of Han Solo, right? It's like, I'm going to use being much smaller to my advantage.
So maybe it's just Al Williamson doesn't do scale well. Maybe it's tough to like get the scale of these things that you haven't even seen yet as you're drawing this.
I don't do scale.
Yeah, I don't know. But in this, it's definitely like, okay, what if you had a trash can on the side of the minivan? Could the trash can escape notice?
According to this, yes. I don't know. Yeah. So anyway, and then of course Han's talking about his plan is they're going to float away with the garbage, is what they do in the movie.
Yep. And on the next page, that's what they do.
They do, and actually pretty well rendered. That's a good piece of art.
Yeah, I mean, look, we can talk all day about all the orbs that they have in space in Marvel Comics.
Once again, that just seems to be a Marvel thing. You just have to include that. I don't know what that is. Across every artist, it's just like, yeah, you know how there's giant colored orbs in space.
That's what space looks like.
Yeah, once again, maybe when they were sharing that joint looking up at the stars, that's what this looked like to them. I don't know.
When did the Hubble launch?
Oh, well before this, right?
I don't know, but I feel like at some point certain telescopes would have disproven the giant orbs in space theory.
Hey man, there could be anything out there. Hubble telescope.
Oh, we're both like desperately searching for when the Hubble launched.
1990, not even close. It's not.
So we're 10 years out from the Hubble. Maybe there are giant spheres in space.
I did not realize it was that recent. I guess that's just because we've always grown up with it, basically.
Yeah,
so.
For as long as we've been alive, there has always been a Hubble until recently, obviously.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite but on the Hubble, one of my favorite super random things that was on Jimmy Fallon's original late night show before he did the Tonight Show. He just had a character he was on multiple episodes, and it was just a guy who was obsessed with the Hubble telescope. And he just kept, and it would just be this guy in the crowd. He goes, "You want to see Space Sector 172.8? Hubble got you!" And he would hold up a picture, and that was his catchphrase: was "Hubble got you."
My favorite Hubble joke is from the Mystery Science Theater 3000 movie, where they accidentally run over the Hubble.
Yes, yeah, great. Anyway, yeah.
Mike, you killed the Hubble.
There they go, floating away with the garbage. We're from the page. They're still floating away with the garbage.
Yeah, just like Han Solo, float away with garbage.
I called him Flyboy a lot in this. I can't remember if she does.
She
call
does a couple of times,
but not as much as she does in this comic. They use it a lot.
No.
Yeah.
There's also maybe a little bit more like worshipfulness and like princess from Han in the comic than there is in the actual movie.
It probably is in the script because it does feel like something that you would write in a script that on set they would go, "Do we need all of this?"
Yeah, and like I think Carrie Fisher and Harrison Ford would have been pretty keenly aware of like the overlaps in their own dialogue.
They were very much, you see that, I think, because they were, Mark Hamill had a lot of heavy lifting to do. I don't think he could change his stuff as much as they could,
Yeah, he had more like info dumpy plot stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen him do that because I've seen him do it a few times. That he still remembers his audition scene and the total like gleep glop stuff he has to say in it. To this day, he still remembers the exact thing about the space station weapons or whatever that he had to say in the audition because he's like, it's still the weirdest. Like, what? Just going. I don't know what this is supposed to play as. Is this funny? Is this a joke?
But when you're auditioning for something like Star Wars, if you can say those sorts of words in that order with earnestness. And especially at that time in which like everything with that kind of phraseology was usually camp.
That's what he was talking. He goes, "Am I supposed to say?" And he goes, "I'll just say it sincerely." And I think that is what won him the part. Is he goes, "I'm just going to go at it. I don't know if this is meant to be, a spoof. I don't know." Because at that point, go over to the IP squad and listen to us talk about. Where's the timeline on that workout? Anyway, I think we will be talking about the second season of the IP Squad about pulp and comic strip heroes, and we'll talk about how much of the early ones of those really didn't take those characters seriously at all because that was the name of the game. All right, so we're back on the thing. Very moody lighting once again, but some of the best is like this on Solo with the glow of the blue screen in front of him.
Totally,
that's the most he looks like Harrison Ford probably in this whole issue.
But this is where they figure out that they can go to Bespin, and then there's someone named Lando Calrissian. Who's this
What?
charming guy?
Oh, he sounds like a smooth
A
operator.
gambler, a con artist, all-around scoundrel. Your kind of guy, princess.
Yeah. That's the guy. And yet, there we go. But there might be trouble, as it indicates here, because next issue, Betrayal at Bespin.
Yeah, and we do get a little bit of the, they're leaving the trash line here, and what's this? Yet, as the Millennium Falcon moves towards safety, the same floating debris which masks it from the departing Imperials hides a second ship from view, a ship which follows the Falcon. It is called the Slave One. It is owned by the bounty hunter named Boba Fett.
I do love the way this feels like they added in that second one where it's like he wrote that. It's like, we better make that clear. Add in a sub-bubble that says, it's called Slave One. It's owned by a guy named Boba Fett. He's a bounty hunter. Anyway.
Now available at Sears near you.
Yeah, write that down so your parents know what to ask for when they go to the toy store. You are looking for the Slave One, which is Boba Fett's ship, and is still one of the coolest ships in all of Star Wars.
Look, you can't go wrong with a fire spray attack ship. It's true.
It's true. There you go. What's going to happen, man? There's going to be a
Well, there's going to be a betrayal of Bespin. Clearly,
yeah. Spoilers, comic. Jesus.
3PO is going to turn on everyone.
I was behind it the whole time.
But we do get a little bit of bonus here at the end of the issue because did you miss Carmine Infantino's Star Wars art? Because guess what? He did the covers of every weekly issue of their Empire Strikes Back that was released in Marvel Europe, right?
Yeah.
Marvel UK, that's what it was called.
Marvel UK, yeah. Which is interesting. It was a weekly comic over there.
Almost all of the Marvel comics that were transported over to the UK
were weekly.
Became weekly comics, yeah.
It's fascinating. I've heard a lot of British filmmakers and creators talk about reading the British versions of Marvel characters and stuff like that on the way. Yeah, that it was published differently over there.
There was a whole separate publishing line called Marvel UK that had their own line of characters. That's where Captain Britain comes from, and there's a whole other subset of characters that have have shown up from time to time but aren't nearly as well known in the States.
It's very fascinating to think there was a time when there would be the British version of something, because now we live in a world where when something's released, it's released the same all over the world, right? They don't really tailor stuff as much. There was that brief period
Really,
of time.
John? Are we going to talk about the Chinese cut of every Marvel movie up to a point?
Well, up to a point is key. There was a period of time when they were trying to do that, right?
Iron Man 3 being the biggest example, I think, but yeah.
Which I gotta say, the Chinese cut of that sounds like, as a Chinese, and I think that was the reaction, is well, this just really ruins the pacing of this movie, to cut away to a guy who really has nothing to do with anything.
Yeah, and it feels like a slap in the face to hey, yeah, Chinese audience, you like this character that has nothing to do with anything?
I really love that the Chinese audience were we see what you're doing and please stop.
Yeah.
There was a distinct no. But no, there definitely was that. But it is interesting that now, comics just come out in England on the same Marvel comic.
But yeah, we get a couple of covers, mostly by Infantino and Gene Day and Dan Green.
We're familiar with Gene Day as well, of course. And, I don't love them.
Yeah, they're not great because we get on some of those design philosophies that you and I have not really liked. Like on this next one where we get Darth Vader with his super wide helmet.
Oh, God. And his cape.
The third cape. One. Oh, the cape is just too big. The third one, we get weird Beast Chewie again.
Oh, geez, he's about to eat 3PO.
And pointy eyebrows on Leia. She's so angry. God.
Look at those. This is terrifying.
And this one with the sad Chewbacca with his weird feet thumbs.
God, what is wrong with this? And 3PO disassembled in the movie is fairly disturbing, but it's a billion times more disturbing as rendered like this. Jeez.
Oh yeah.
Jeez.
We get a good one of Han Solo punching Lando in the kisser.
This is my favorite one because it's very indicative of the era Infantino came from. This is very Silver Age Cap punching Hitler kind of stuff.
I mean, it totally is, yeah.
It's the most dramatic haymaker. But once again, Han's hair, he loves that Prince Valiant hair in Fantina, doesn't he? That big, what the idea of any motion is going to swish around and just.
Yeah, I really like them including like the bonus material like that. We get a little bit more of that next issue as well. I'm very excited. There's one in particular, a Frank Miller piece in that one that I really enjoyed, but we'll get to that when we get to it.
Well, Frank Miller.
Yeah.
We're just at the beginning of his ascent.
Well, and it credits him as like writer and artist of Daredevil, Frank Miller.
Yeah, right. Because this is right around the time he takes that over. So
yeah, exactly.
And basically changes comics.
But yeah, that was issue number 43. Next time, we're going to go to Cloud City. We're going to meet good old Lando and maybe have a dinner that our characters won't forget. Also, Yoda will be changing size a lot next issue as well.
Anywho, if you want more from this show and all the shows on the Punch Up Entertainment Network, you're going to want to head over to our Patreon page, which is patreon.podbean.com/punchup. Once again, that's patreon.podbean.com/punchup for all your fun, exclusive content over there, as well as helping out the shows on the network.
Absolutely. And of course, one of the best ways to support this show is by viewing it in its intended medium, and that is over on YouTube. You can read along and see the panels of the comic as we are discussing them. And if you do so, please like, follow, subscribe, dongle that little bell to let you know when any new episode from the Punch Up Entertainment Network drops. And let us know in the comments below, what size of Yoda is your preferred size? Do you like the fun size? Do you like the carry-on sized Yoda? Or do you go full check-in luggage?
Travel size Yoda. But yeah, I think that's going to wrap things up, though.
Absolutely. So, for May the Panel Be With You, I am Mike Ergoni.
I'm John Campbell.
And remember, may the panel be with you.